Let's be honest, The Conjuring doesn't seem very special at first glance. If I asked you to pick out The Conjuring from this lineup, you probably couldn't. So many horror movies look the same these days and star this guy. But it may only seem that way since James Wan created the blueprint for modern horror movies with The Conjuring, which makes it truly genius. My name is Steven, and welcome to Hot Strike. As far as I'm concerned, James Wan is the GOAT of modern horror.
That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Not because he's made the best films, I think the best horror film since 2000 would probably be either The Babadook or Get Out, but because he's been most influential to the genre. And you may be thinking, hey, well, YouTube guy, why don't you review The Babadook? That's simple, it's too scary. Why not review Get Out? Too easy, everyone knows that movie's great. So that brings me to The Conjuring, my personal favorite and what I believe to be the backbone of the modern horror genre. By the time he made The Conjuring, director James Wan was already an industry veteran. He had directed the first Saw, was the executive producer of the next 5, and had directed other horror films like Dead Silence and Insidious. Sure, he made some stinkers in there, but the Conjuring, Insidious, and Saw franchises are the 3 biggest names in modern horror, all thanks to him. And most people wouldn't realize that he is still the driving force behind horror films today, like Malignant and Megan. Compared to most scary movies, The Conjuring plays it safe without much gore, swearing, or nudity because the producers were hoping to get a PG-13 rating, but it still got the R rating for being too spooky. Even with the R rating, The Conjuring went on to have a great opening weekend and created a franchise that has now grossed over $2 billion, making it the 34th highest grossing franchise of all time and the only horror franchise in the top 50. Using real-life paranormal researchers Ed and Lorraine Warren as the backbone builds a world and franchise where paranormal, let's just say stuff, is commonplace. Most horror films take place in a world where the events of the movie are unheard of and the characters can't believe what is going on. And frankly, even the movie version of Ed and Lorraine Warren feels more real than the most popular ghost hunter today, Zak Bagans from Ghost Adventures.
My name is Zak Bagans. I never believed in ghosts until I came face to face with one. So I set out on a quest to capture what I once saw onto video. Raw. Extreme.
Stop! You have reached your final destination. Hell.
In The Conjuring, it's just another day at the office for Ed and Lorraine Warren. They know how to handle the situation. Like all shows and movies, smart and capable protagonists are way more fun to watch than idiots fumbling their way through the story. I mean, just look at old Tommy Shelby. God, he's so smart and sexy.
He looked at me the wrong way. It's not a good idea to look at Tommy Shelby the wrong way.
Hell, throw in a fan cam for Ed too. The parent family desperately needs the help of the Warrens after they move in, and you don't have to wait long for shit to start happening. The first thing that happens is their dog Sadie won't enter the house, and the next morning is just straight up dead. Dogs dying is always the worst, and I can't believe it starts with this right out of the gate. Then we get a more traditional slow burn. The youngest daughter has a new creepy imaginary friend, the house smells like shit, and in the middle of the scariest game of all time, hide and clap, the mom follows ghostly claps to find nothing there. In most horror movies, the slow burn of the hauntings is the worst part. Usually the things happening aren't that interesting, there aren't many, so it just ramps up drastically, and everything is just shot poorly. The early 2000s was a strange time for horror movies. Many of them went the found footage route after seeing how much money Paranormal Activity made on such a small budget, and then there was also a lot of comedy horror movies, like Shaun of the Dead or The Cabin in the Woods, and a lot of films were just extremely campy, low-budget messes that most people only watch because they were so bad. It's always fun to get to squat together and laugh at a terrible movie, and I blame straight to DVD releases for this era of horror movies. The Conjuring fixed all that and reset the tone for horror movies. It made these movies artistic again by using cinematography, sound design, and editing to make each moment as stressful as possible. Something as simple as hide and seek becomes extremely creepy. The sound is quiet and makes you pay attention to every little noise. The shots are simple and wide, which lets us look around the room trying to find out what is going on. Oh, and here's a random nerd term for you, Chekhov's gun. Yeah, The Conjuring does that too. Here the dad sets a matchbox down. It even gets a close-up to say, hey, dumb audience people, pay attention to this. Then later, after the mom gets straight domed by the door.
Who's ever down there, I'm gonna lock you in now!
She uses the matches so she can see her way in the dark.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
Just some good filmmaking and understanding of setup and payoff, also some fire lighting. This overall style has now become a new baseline for the horror genre. Any horror movie worth a damn is building upon all the fundamentals The Conjuring perfected. Good world building, interesting paranormal set pieces, and using all possible filmmaking tools to scare the audience. Sometimes I think scary movies get so caught up in trying to scare people, they mess up the process of, telling a story. Bad horror movies are just a sequence of jump scares linked together by boring periods of nothing. In The Conjuring, I'm actually rooting for the conflict to be resolved because the characters are compelling and the film does a great job of showing the negative effects of the hauntings and how the Warrens can actually help make a difference. For example, look at these two scenes.
He made me do it.
I think I might take some girls for ice cream later on. What do you say about that?
Having these scenes so close together shows the stark contrast in the family's life and how desperately it needs to be fixed. The goal is important and it is clear what needs to be done. By sprinkling in moments of levity and joy, it makes the scary moments more surprising. And James Wan handles the transition from happy to scary beautifully. This effect is just so well done, and is one of my all-time favorite horror movie moments. After the initial moment happens, it reveals that it has two parts and becomes a pivotal moment in the entire film. The mom is now possessed. This whole sequence flows and builds naturally, which prevents the tonal shifts from happy to scary from feeling too jarring. Although for most horror movie fans, The Conjuring really isn't that scary, we still get some nuts stuff. What makes this moment better than just a typical jump scare is how it relates to the plot and information we already know. We were shown that Bathsheba hung herself, and using the rope sound effect links it to the overarching plot. It's not just a random scary moment, it's a scary plot moment. All in all, I think the true genius of The Conjuring lies with its ability to create a good, yet scary story. It also managed to create a franchise a critic called the first successful post-Marvel cinematic universe. Now that's high praise, but I do agree that The Conjuring is truly genius. My name's Steven, and this has been Hot Strike. If you enjoyed this video, please comment and let me know what movies you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks for watching.